regional museums, the August Wilson African American Cultural Center, Falling Water, ourselves, the Frick Pittsburgh, the Mattress Factory, and the Westmoreland Museum of American Art received a transformational grant from the Richard King Mellon Foundation that allowed us to partner with Carnegie Mellon University's Entertainment Technology Center and our wonderful diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion consultant, Cecile Shellman, to develop a museum live streaming tour tool, a technology that didn't exist, but which we were all dreaming of, particularly in the early days of the pandemic, when we so much wanted to be able to share the experiences of our galleries with visitors. Some potential funders might have considered this a harebrained scheme, but we are very grateful to the Richard King Mellon Foundation for recognizing its value and making it possible. Tonight, we are proud to debut the resulting live streaming museum tour experience, which is the result of countless hours involving dozens of people. I'm grateful to all of you who helped to make this happen, and I'm delighted to see so many of you, our members and friends, here to enjoy this wonderful experience. Have fun.
Thank you so much, Lizzie. I'm Lisa Viscusi. I'm the manager of adult learning at the Frick. And I'm just going to run through quickly what we are going to see today. And then I will introduce my colleague, Melanie Groves. So we are going to be in the galleries and hear from Vincent for the beginning of our program. And then we will have time for Q&A afterwards. You're welcome to put your cues, I was going to say, your questions in the chat. You can also use the Q&A function. And we look forward to hearing what your questions are. We have the man himself who is so deeply connected to these images. So this is the time. If you are interested in using closed captions, they're on. You can toggle yours on and off, but also if you feel that they're obstructing any view for you, you can click on them. A hand will show up and you can move them around your screen. And without further ado, Melanie.
Hello. Hi, I'm Melanie Groves, Manager of Exhibitions and Registrar here at the Frick, and it has also been my pleasure to curate the exhibition Frida Kahlo, an intimate portrait, the photographic albums from the Vincent Wolfe collection. The exhibition features 115 photographs, and they form a visual biography of the life of Frida Kahlo. Taken from her personal albums, the photographs give us an insider's view of one of the 20th century's most fascinating artists. Tonight, we're honored to have Vincent Wolfe, renowned interior designer, photographer and photography collector in our galleries live to talk about his collection. There is no one better to talk about the personal connection to be found with Frida in these photographs than Vincent, so take it away.
Hi, everybody. My name is Vincent Wolfe, and I want to thank very much Frick for showing the collection. I'm speaking to you as a collector, not as in any way an expert on Frida. I knew who she was. I knew what her paintings were like and what her brows looked like. But I really was not in any way a groupie. Somebody came to me with this collection and offered it to me to see if I knew somebody who would want to purchase it. After looking at it 2 or 3 times in a period of a week, I really realized the value of what I was looking at. The personality, the sense of her persona coming across these images. And to me, it was really, I couldn't let go of it. I kept thinking about it. And so I, as it says here, I mortgaged my house and I bought them. She spoke to me in such a alive way. She became a friend, and I certainly became an admirer. So much of them speak about her strength, her capability of just expressing herself. There's nothing in these images that was just by chance. Everything here spoke of how she wanted to portray herself, how she wanted you, the viewer, to see her. Some of them are just personal snapshots, but even in those, she's still coming across as a contemporary person. Everybody else around them looks like the 1930s, 40s, but she spoke so clearly of today. She could have been walking down the street, she could have been a pages of Vogue, because what she was trying to say to you, the viewer, was look at me and just remember who I am. So much of it, you want to walk around? So much of them are just starting from when she was very young and how really beautiful she was, about the pain she suffered in going through so many operations and going through love affairs with men, with women, with Trotsky staying in their house with his wife there and she and Diego all together, relationships with women, with men. Uh, but she just was from another era. These things did not exist in those days. But to her, it was how she wanted to live her life. Whether she was dressed in total costume or she was painting herself, she just wanted to express herself in a very clear way. I mean, all these images all speak of her, in groups with friends, um, in Chicago, in New York, and just always looking straight at the camera, looking at the camera and saying, look who I am. And that to me was when I started to go through these images, I could smell her. And it sounds silly that I could smell her because there was no perfume or anything like that. But whether it was the lipstick on the back of a photograph from her kissing it, to the way that Diego looked with all these sort of young girls, and to me, it's an amazing collection. And they usually are kept in a suitcase, um, but when I see them all laid out, even after owning them for like close to 15 years, I'm like blown away uh, of who she was. I'll tell you a little story. There's this psychic that I know, and once in a while, every other year, call her up and she does a reading. And the images were on my conference table because somebody had come to look at them. And the psychic said to me, Nina, Lena, Vida, this is somebody who died a long time ago, but she's here with me and she's saying thank you for keeping my memory alive. Each time I relate that story, I get goosebumps because how did this woman in Iowa or I don't know, I don't know where the woman was, but she certainly wasn't in New York, that she could perceive this. So here, let's keep walking around. This is one of my favorite portraits. Um, I love the way she looks. With the copper pot in her head, the necklaces, the whole thing. And if you look at some of these images, she's written, about, well, gee, my hair should look a little different, or I want the mustache to show more. I mean, these were things that she was just creating this image that after so many years is still so present to everybody around us. Um, they just keep, just sort of, I love this of Diego painting the portrait of a little girl, and just she's standing there, he's painting it. It's just so alive. Um, and as you go from room to room, they're just different messages being told. the portrait of Diego and Frida, she looking absolutely so beautiful. And talking about their love affair, his love affair with all these young ladies, his love affair with her sister. Just it was such, to say so modern. It doesn't say much about our modern times, but this is really taking place, in a period where people didn't do things like that. Maybe it had to do with their sense of revolt with society and them wanting to make a statement on communism. But they certainly were living the fast life, um, which is really so amazing. Um, just in all of them, once in a while you see her face in these photographs and you realize how absolutely beautiful she was. I mean, and this is somebody that at a very young age had gone through a really horrific accident in a trolley, and that she was constantly in pain. She was constantly being operated on, like the images here, just strapped up, by the jaw and just really suffering, that she was able to still paint while she was laying in the bed, and just really you could see her real pain. I love this one. It's an unknown who took it, but of the man who had obviously just x-rayed her, uh, here with her doctor, who ended up with this collection after she passed away. And then it just went from one person to the next until it got to me. Um, I love this one here, her dressed as a man. And I think it's one of the most famous of the images of the collection. It was in the movie reproduced with her, the actress, dressed like how the portrait was done here. Um, does anybody have any questions? And I don't know how I'm going to hear them, but
Vincent, we do have one question.
yes.
Lydia has asked, do you exhibit any of the photos in your home, or are they just stored or lent to museums only?
They are stored. And in fact, after here, it's going to Venice, which the show is being designed with Sandrina Rubelli and myself, and it's going to be shown at the Fortuny Museum, which I'm very excited about seeing it there. But no, usually they're all in a suitcase. I don't want some hanging, some not. I think it's important for me to keep them all together. And when they are being shown, I don't want to have to take them off the wall and send them out. So she lives in a little suitcase that it has been there since I bought him 15 years ago. Any other questions?
Everyone is welcome to submit questions in the chat or the Q&A. I see we have a couple more, so if you'll just, here we go. How many, Marlene is asking, Vincent, how many photos do you own and how many are exhibited?
There are 450, but this group here is the group that really, it started at the Walker Art Center the first time they were shown publicly. And it's basically the original collection that was shown at the museum. Some get added depending upon who's having the show and what they want to show and talk about of the collection. But it's mainly the group that is here that is exhibited.
And I guess a follow-up question or a part of a question here is, are there any other Frida photos that are not on view that you have in your collection? And you're saying there are.
Yes,
are they grouped?
They are.
And they're
I mean, some of them are
particularly?
just snapshots that were taken by her or Diego
Mm-hmm.
of dancers, of costumes, Mexican costumes, of children in the street. I
Sure.
think some of them were being used by Diego as inspiration for paintings, but they
Mm.
were all kept together as a collection. What's so interesting is that at one point, when the last person of the people who inherit the collection, they were going to throw them away because they thought, oh, these are just all photographs, and let's get rid of them. Which I'm so glad that they didn't. The other half of her albums is in the Casa Azul collection in Mexico. Um, but these are the ones that left, you
Yeah.
know.
Someone, thank you for that. Someone is asking, maybe we can take a stroll over to the photo of her dressed in a suit. There's someone's asking, is her father in that photo in particular?
Yes, it is. It's her mother, her father,
Mm-hmm.
and sisters and members of the family. Guillermo Gala gathered his family for a photo shoot outside the Blue House on February the 7th, 1926. I'm
Mm.
reading this. Uh, she came out dressed as a man. And in it, she writes, here's Frida dressed like a man on the photograph. That's what's so interesting about them is that in so many of them, she's written things, she's drawn on her face, she's
Mm-hmm.
cropped the images depending upon how she wanted to be perceived. And it's really just so really interesting. This one over here by Manuel Alvarez Bravo is sort of surreal, which is in one of her paintings, this floating dress, hanging on a clothesline, which,
Mm-hmm.
I really love.
Yeah, I think one of the images that we put up earlier was one of those that she marked up with a pen.
Right.
And I know there are a handful of others as well. We have, Maria here. She's from South Patagonia. And
Wow.
welcome, Maria. She is
Welcome.
asking, how has the experience of this incredible collection affected or inspired your own art?
Well, the personality is so strong. Uh, the way it really has affected me is by me really learning about her personally, about seeing her, about just really perceiving who this woman was and how strong her personality was at a time where so many women artists were just not really seen or heard about or their work shown that much. She just persevered, and with so many obstacles in her way, it's given me as a creative person just the sense of like, boy, if she could do this, I can certainly do that, and so many of us can do that. That
Yeah.
all we need is just the determination to speak about our art and speak about what we truly believe in.
Yeah, I think we've been doing, excuse me, we've been doing, a number of other programs and workshops about Frida, and her being is an inspiration to people in their creativity, in their activism, in their personal life. And I know when I first walked in the gallery, when the show opened, it's palpable. You can just feel her. Like I think
You can. I mean,
you could smell
can
it.
you imagine? I mean, with this longevity of time from when these pictures were taken, that
Mm-hmm.
her persona is so strong that you can see her. You
Yeah.
can look into her eyes, and she's looking straight at you.
Mm-hmm.
She's not in any way being coy or shy or
No.
intimidated. She is just saying, "Here I am," and it's just really an amazing thing.
Yes. Well, sort of a second question to what was asked earlier. Do you think her style influences your style, your design style? And have you ever designed a space that you thought Frida would like?
Well, as a designer, I'm known for white rooms.
Yeah.
So she has, her art is it's very different. But the sense of color has certainly influenced me
Hmm.
in projects that I've worked that the client had wanted colors, and I have delved into her artwork and to how she dressed and the colors
Hmm.
that she used. In designing some of the shows that I have designed for this collection, I certainly have been influenced by her sense of color and her uh, really unashamable way of expressing color
Hmm.
within spaces.
Um, oh,
I
someone,
haven't grown my brows. That for sure I haven't done.
no.
And flowers in my hair, though it's gotten longer through COVID, I have still not done. But it's so interesting because you walk down the street in New York and you'll see the influences. You'll see
Hmm.
there was a party at the Brooklyn Museum that had a Frida retrospective, and some of these images were in it. And all these women just sort of like speaking like her, with
Hmm.
brows and the hair. Some Asian women, some, African American women, but they
Hmm.
were all like sort of saying the Frida thing. And I thought it was really interesting how strong an influence can be
Hmm.
through time.
Yes, I think I read it in her biography. I may have read it in an article, but um, that she thought she was ugly, except she loved her eyebrows, which I think her identity was in her eyebrows somehow, which I just thought was a really interesting. I mean, I think we all look at her and see such beauty, but she really,
Yes,
that
yes.
was her, to her, that was her source of beauty and power.
Well,
And
the mustache was too. I mean,
but yes.
because in some of the drawing and photographs, she talks about the mustache and she sort of shades it in the photograph, which obviously it meant that
Uh,
she really wanted that to show.
yeah. Oh, we have a number of questions here still. Oh, this is a question I've been excited to ask you. How did it feel for you to let the images go, to come to the exhibition, to let them out of your hands, so to speak?
Well, I think when you have art, you're just a caretaker for that moment
Mm, mm-hmm,
because the art just lives on after we go. So to me, to be able to share them, I've been in shows when people are walking around and looking at them and like oohing and eyeing, and I mean, it's sort of funny for me to look at them and say, these are mine. These are my
right,
photographs.
right.
They really are not my photographs. I mean, I'm just the caretaker at the moment. But I think it's important to be able to share it because you don't get to see her this way. Yes, you can see her paintings, but the paintings were made to to go out. These photographs were meant to stay in. This was her personal expression,
Yeah.
not one that she did to share with other people, which
Mm-hmm,
gives you a sort of a peek behind the curtain about how she was perceiving herself and what was important, because how she crops certain of these photographs is is her eyes showing you what she wanted you to see,
mm-hmm,
whether it was just personally or now that it is a collection that people will see it and see what she was seeing, which is
mm-hmm.
really that's what's so wonderful about the collection, because it wasn't meant to be as a painting that got sold and hung in somebody's home. These were things that she kept close to her breast. So
Yeah.
to me, it makes it even so much better.
I think in her work and in her writing as well, and we know I learned from Melanie that she kept these photos and postcards as a way to sort of keep herself alive and keep the other people alive in her life. But something that I've been experiencing with her is that she was always sort of confessional in her life, in her work, but it was never it was never overdone. She was just plain honest and just plain exactly who she was out in the world as she was internally. And there's something very refreshing about that. And we see that sentiment very clearly in these photos, I think.
Well, if you look at her paintings, she was very willing to share her pain and share her fears and her losses with you, because she was talking to the viewer, and she was talking to them and telling them what really who she was, what she
Right.
loved, whether it was the monkeys or the dogs or or her pain or the fact that her miscarriage, her operations. It was all a dialogue, whether it was here privately or within her paintings and or within her life. She was telling you exactly how she was feeling and how
Right.
she was hurting or how she was happy. It just really uh, most artists are not so willing to share. Yes, they're sharing their art with you, but not their guts. And she just was putting it all up front,
Yeah.
whether showing her miscarriage or showing her stomach cut open. I mean, these were all things that she was just willing to share. I mean, which is something that most people just don't are too afraid to do. And
Yes.
she just was not afraid. She just wanted you to see who she was. I mean,
hmm I'm going to combine two questions asking about your book. So can you talk a little, one of our colleagues from the Museum of Fine Arts, Washington County, is asking if you can talk a little bit about the process of making Frida Kahlo photographs of myself and others, and what were you thinking about in terms of curating, quote unquote, the collection for that type of format?
well, the book was done with Point Leaf Press. And what was so funny, I mean, I've done like 5 books of my work, and
Yeah.
I'm very sort of open about, my photographs and my work. This, I just, what did I do? I bought it. That is the least of anything in that, yes, I mortgaged the house, but, it was just, that was it. Putting the book together was a way, again, to keep showing the world what these images were and a little bit about how they came to me and how people should look at her. It's very, in a way, very private because they were
Yeah.
her private images.
Right.
But it was something I certainly wanted to share. So the book, I was so happy that it was able to be done because, just when they go back in the suitcase, that's where they go. But a book is out there for anybody to see and to study and to read about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Speaking of, I think you said you just happened to get them, but I don't know. You said you were the caretaker, so I think it was more than just that. But someone's asking, did you acquire them through auction or were they purchased directly from
No,
the?
it was a private sale.
Okay,
It was being very quietly put out there.
sure.
And actually, I was the first person that it was shown. And Ann Horton, who used to be the head of photography at Sotheby's, because I bought through the years images, and she knew a lot of my clients were big art collectors. She said, "Well, would you show them? Would you talk about it to other people to see if they would be interested in purchasing the collection?"
Mm-hmm.
And I found somebody who was interested. And when I said, all I want is a photograph from the collection, they said no. I thought, wait a second. why sell it to them when I can buy them?
Right.
And it just, when does something like this, I mean, how many artists of this importance have personal things that are just sort of out there that can pass by you and say, "Oh, yeah, I'll buy, I'll I'll
Right.
buy them." There aren't, and that's what clicked in my head was like, wait a second, whenever is this ever going to pass by me?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I just felt it was. I didn't question the idea. Oh my gosh, should I do it? Should I not? After I looked at it for the third time, I said, I'll buy them, you know, and to say I'll buy them because it's not the sort of photographs that I collect. So when somebody says, "Oh, would you hang them?" Yes, there are a couple of them that I would certainly love to hanging. But it was not about it being integrated into my collection. It's a unit,
Right.
and uh, auctions houses have come to me and said, "Well, would you put them up individually for sale?" And I said, "Oh no, absolutely not. I mean, to break this up would be just such a
Mm.
sin
Mm-hmm.
because once you separate it, it no longer, it's like when the Duchess of Windsor's jewelry was sold. It
Yeah.
was when it was the collection of the Duchess of Windsor that once it's split up, it no longer, it's, I think it's an unfair thing to do to her that she would be disseminated just by private collections, you know, around
Yeah.
the world. That just was not an option.
Well, and as you mentioned, you put it all on the line to get this collection, and someone's asking, was mortgaging the house scary? Wondering if the images would be received. That's a good
I
question.
don't know. I'm a fool.
Oh, I
But you
see.
know how many fools will admit they're fools?
Right.
Um, I, no. It was just such a clear decision, and it was like, oh, why not?
Yeah.
You know, do it. I mean, I didn't think about it because I understood the strength of what I was buying. It
Right.
wasn't a gamble. It was just a decision that I had the house, I could get a mortgage, and what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've made, certainly it was a purchase bigger than anything I had ever purchased before,
Right.
but it was just a no-brainer, I think. Hence, here it is. I
And here
mean,
it is. Yeah.
I knew that other people would want to see it. I knew other people were curious about it. So it was just a very simple decision to make.
Well, it's definitely made its mark. At our museum and in Pittsburgh for sure. I'll tell you that. Someone you mentioned that you collect other art, other photographer. I'm sorry, other photographers. And are
Right.
there who else do you collect? And are there any particular themes in your
Oh,
collection?
yeah. As I said, Italian futurist, which was a very small window of futurist photographer
Mm-hmm.
before the beginning of the First World War. And then most of them got killed. And so
Yeah.
then Mussolini came in and it altered what the thinking of futurism was about. Russian avant-garde, German Dadaist. So very different, though. I mean, she certainly was a surrealist. I mean, in her paintings. And then I own American photographers of the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. Um, Walker Evans. Just, I've always bought images that appeal to me. And I think that that's the best way to collect.
Right.
Not to say, well, will this be worth something one day? It I think you buy what you love. And I've always loved surrealism and just sort of futurists. The sense of dreamers
Yeah.
has always been something that has appealed to me in collecting.
Um, We have two questions that just popped up, one from Christine and one from Elizabeth. What do you hope will happen to the collection after you no longer own it? And then similarly, what are your ultimate plans for the collection? Do you want to see it end up in a museum someday? And if so, do you have a museum in mind? That's a lot of questions.
No, I'm right now just enjoying having it travel around the world and go to different openings and see them again up on the wall, being seen by different people. Like for it to go to Venice, for the Art Biennale, it's to me, it's like, wow. I mean, okay, this is I'm Cuban and I was a refugee. I
Mhm.
came in 61 to this country. And I think to myself, who would have thought? Here, a Cuban refugee owning all this, and
Right.
sharing it with people to me is so much fun to see people's expressions when they're looking at them. So
Hmm.
would it be, I mean, I don't know. I mean, who knows? Listen, after the year we've lived, who knows what the hell
Right.
is coming down the
That's
pike?
right.
We don't know anything. But I know that it's something that will stay together and that will eventually be, as a always being seen as a unit.
Hmm. Oh, we're just still getting questions pouring in.
Well, you know. Well, at first everybody should come here and see it. I
Yes,
mean, because
yes.
one thing is to see it this way, the other one is to go from image to image, and it's such a wonderful museum because it's like you're walking through somebody's home, and I
Hmm.
think that that always makes seeing art so much special, much more special.
Yes. This is a really interesting question from Amanda. Do you relate to or think about Diego at all? Or is it really the Frida facet of the photos that is the main appeal for you?
Well, I would say that I was first. I knew Diego's paintings. To me, what's so fascinating, and I mean, it's maybe not a nice thing to say, he was such a toad. And all these women, like just all over him, and these little wisps of young ladies just like dripping themselves over him. I
Yeah.
just wonder what he had. I mean, you can't see it in a picture, but in person, it must be something that he must have just exuded because she certainly was infatuated with him and these other women that he was going to bed with all these different women,
Yeah.
all, movie stars. I mean, Maria Felix. I mean, just all these women that he was just like, betting. So it's
Yes.
to me that I find that fascinating. The power of a personality. Um, that's what I think of Diego. I love his painting. I love how his portraits were and how committed he was to his art.
Yeah. I mean, often in what we read about her, um, says that he really was the well-known one. Um,
Yes,
and even still, I think some people know about him and know less about her, other than that she is an icon,
right, right.
which is interesting. But really, they sort of grew together in a lot of ways, and we see that in these pictures and in the stories that we hear. Um,
I
so,
mean, he didn't do that many paintings.
right,
So it has stayed really very controlled. And the people who own the paintings don't let them out that much. So with Diego, he was painting, I mean, Rockefeller Center, in Detroit, he was an international artist. She
mm-hmm,
was just the woman that was with him
mm-hmm,
through part of his life. So it's amazing that she was able to become so important
mm-hmm,
with so little paintings that she did and so much of her tragedies, holding her back,
yeah,
that she was able to succeed to the degree that I think it's an image. You see her face in T-shirts, and you don't see Diego's face or Diego's
No.
painting. Maybe one or two that are really the woman selling the cow lilies or something like that. But
Yeah.
she is a face that, you know, you look at fashion photographs and you can immediately see when they are like, you know, playing her up, whether it's
Yes.
how the hair is done or flowers in the hair. It's that image, which is so amazing within she didn't live that long, that she
Mm-hmm.
was able to really make such an incredibly strong statement, and just in such a short window. I mean, it's really, how many other artists can have done that? Yes, you have
Right.
Picasso, or you have a Dali who became, whether it was the curly mustache, or, but there aren't that many artists that really imprinted their image
Mm-hmm.
in the global vocabulary.
Yes.
I love those big words, global vocabulary.
Those are great
Um,
words. Great words. This is a great question from Melanie. What do you hope a viewer of the exhibition will remember about the collection? I think that's a great question. As the caretaker of this collection,
well, I just think to know that this was a woman who loved, who was so incredibly passionate about her life and
mhm,
about what she wanted to say. Uh, that for women, especially, it speaks about what lies ahead, what you as a person, as a woman, have with these images, such an inspiration that it just is so enlightening, uh, about her. And as for men, the fact that she just was not fooling around. I mean, she
right.
just went against whoever, whether it was Diego or whether whoever it was, she stood very strongly for what she believed and what she felt she needed to say. And I think that that's a strong message about art, about individuality, about humanity,
Yes.
of
Yes.
how we must really try always to project ourselves.
Mhm. I'm going to ask you one more question.
Okay.
We're nearing our time. What is now the question is, what is your favorite? And I know that's probably difficult. So if that's too difficult, maybe show us one to three of your favorites.
Well, let me put it to you this way. When I said that I wanted a photograph to this person that was going to buy the collection, one of them is this one right here, which doesn't show Frida at all. But
oh,
it has such a surreal quality about it. I love the family portrait. I mean, maybe because it's one of those images that so well, because it just spoke of so strongly about her.
mhm.
And
And
I
I
love one of the first images in the show, which is her as a young girl. She was just so, I mean, so pretty, so
yeah,
full of life.
yes.
I
That
mean,
is
which one did you like?
which one did I it's funny because when I was going through, I kept thinking one or a handful would stick out to me. And I mean, there were, but I was just wrapped by each one, trying to imagine what the story was behind it. I liked that there were four grouped together of Diego and Frida. Um, Melanie will know which one this is. She might be able to point you in the
Yes,
direction.
the one of her and
They're
him.
on a carousel.
Um, I
Carousel.
think it was a photograph taken at their second wedding. Their
Okay,
second
okay.
wedding shot. She has flowers and then she has like a shawl around her.
Mm-hmm.
There's one that is really interesting because it's a negative of a photograph. And again, I like that because it was so real looking, that
Mhm.
you would be keeping a photograph of a negative, instead of the actual image.
Mhm. I see to your right is a case, and there's a handful of those in the exhibition for those who haven't seen them. And they show, as Vincent mentioned at the beginning of his talk, that Frida kissed the back of her postcards sometimes, or would write on them, but really it's the kiss.
It's something that it was a lipstick that was done by, if I am not mistaken, Revlon. So a lot of them she kissed. I mean, not a lot, certainly there's like 5 or 6 of them that she kissed in the back.
Right.
And she just, I guess it was again putting her scent on
Yeah.
part of the message. It's her presence. She wanted to live on. Maybe because she almost died very young, and through life, death came so close to her. And she knew that sooner rather than later, it would take her away. That she
Yes.
wanted to be sure that there were pieces of her that were, left behind for people to see,
Mhm.
and that in itself is really the big message about the show, is that it just tells you, I am here, I will not go away easily. And she certainly has not,
No, and as I said, thanks to you and um, your
mortgage.
your mortgage and your connection with Frida. Like I said, it is made a mark here in Pittsburgh. I think it was maybe what we needed here and after this pandemic to come out a little bit, bring us out and feel a connection to our spaces again. And so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. We are deeply grateful for you. Thank you for coming to our space as well, to be with your collection. And we're just so happy that we have this story to tell and that it's here in our galleries. So Vincent.
Well, and thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
And showing the collection. It really, I haven't seen it for at least a year. And so to see it again and to see it come to life I didn't realize that there were so many of them. And I'm walking around saying, are these it? Are these all mine? I really thank you.
Well,
And
maybe I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go on.
I was just going to say, maybe as we say goodbye to everyone and thank you to everyone, including our members, by the way, who we're grateful for your support and being able to be back open and being here to hear Vincent. Maybe we can take a stroll through the gallery so people can see what's in this room here at least. But I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us. And Vincent, I wish everyone could meet you in person. Maybe another day.
Okay, but you can all come and see the images. They're
Yes.
really wonderful. And I know that whoever comes to see the show will love it so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And thanks everyone again.